In a small town surrounded by the quiet of hills and the lushness of forests, there was a lake that stood out from all the others. It was a lake that, unlike the common ones scattered throughout the world, carried with it an aura of mystery and a deep enigma that challenged the understanding of the local inhabitants. The lake was known not only for its serene beauty, but also for the ancient legends that permeated its crystalline waters. For years, the townspeople gathered around bonfires to share stories about the lake, their whispered conversations at night transforming the mystery into an almost mythical tale. The lake possessed a peculiar phenomenon, the song of the lake, that emerged on the quietest nights when the moon was high and the stars shone brightly in the sky. It was a melodic sound, of an ethereal quality, that seemed to dance on the mirrored surfaces of the water. The music was both hypnotic and unsettling, as if it were in perfect harmony with the very essence of the lake. Those who had the courage to follow the sound reported stories of how they were drawn into the depths of the lake, disappearing without a trace. For the townspeople, the song of the lake was not merely a natural phenomenon, but an enigmatic force that defied reason. Many believed that the lake hid an ancient and dangerous secret, a force that should not be awakened or unraveled. Thus, the lake remained an enigma shrouded in mystery, its calm waters concealing deep truths and, perhaps, dangers. Olivia was only 14 years old, but since she was little, she had felt an uncontrollable curiosity about the mysterious stories surrounding the lake. While other children were frightened by the dark tales, Olivia felt strangely drawn to them. There was something in the whispers of those narratives that ignited her imagination, a need to understand what lay beyond what the eyes could see. Her grandmother, an elderly woman, always seemed to know more than she revealed, and often, at the end of a story, she would look at Olivia with a gaze full of warning. Living with her grandmother in an old and cozy house situated very close to the lake, Olivia grew up enveloped by these stories. The house was as old as the legends, with wooden beams creaking at the slightest touch of the wind and windows, reflecting the glow of the moonlight over the lake. The walls carried the weight of years and memories, and the scent of herbal tea and old books permeated the air, creating an atmosphere that felt in tune with the mysteries around. Olivia's grandmother, though loving, was a woman of few words about the lake. However, the stories told by the town's elders, always in grave and hushed tones, revealed dark details. They said that people, upon hearing the melody of the song of the lake, were drawn to the water, disappearing to never return. The stories were passed down from generation to generation, involving both disbelief and fear. For some, it was all just exaggerated legends, mere tales to scare children and deter the curious from the lake at night. However, others, more superstitious, believed that there was something real and dangerous behind these stories, and that the lake hid an ancient curse, a force that should not be provoked. These mysteries only made Olivia feel an even stronger attraction to the lake. She knew in her heart that these stories were not mere fables, and whenever her grandmother told her another piece of the legends, Olivia felt there was something her grandmother never fully expressed, something that was kept in silence, in the pauses between one sentence and another. Olivia was determined to discover the truth, even if it meant challenging the warnings that echoed from time immemorial. Everything seemed to be just a scary story, something to frighten children and discourage the curious. But on a cold night, wrapped in a dense fog, something disturbing happened. The mystery that had once only inhabited the legends began to take shape. Lucas, Olivia's best friend, disappeared without a trace. He was 15 years old, just a year older than Olivia, and shared the same insatiable curiosity. Both possessed an adventurous spirit and spent hours together exploring the outskirts of the small town, from the hills to the depths of the forest. That night, however, Lucas made a decision that would change everything. Driven by a sudden impulse and a curiosity he could not control, he went to the lake alone, ignoring the warnings of the legends. Before leaving, he mentioned to Olivia, almost as if it were something insignificant, that he had heard a different sound by the water's edge, something that seemed to whisper his name among the rustling of the trees and the gentle sound of the waves. It was a mysterious sound, a distant melody that seemed to call to him. Olivia didn't imagine that those words would be the last she would hear from Lucas. She vividly remembered how he described the sound, like a song that came from the depths of the lake, soft and hypnotic. He was so fascinated, so drawn to the idea that perhaps, just perhaps, the legends were true, that he decided to investigate alone. When Lucas did not return that night, panic took hold of the small town. Searches were organized, lanterns illuminated every corner of the forest, and the townspeople scoured the area around the lake, calling out his name. But Lucas seemed to have vanished without a trace, as if the lake had swallowed him whole, taking with it all the answers. For Olivia, Lucas's disappearance was not just a mystery. It was a deep wound. She could not shake the feeling that something terrible had happened, something beyond what the adults could understand. Lucas's disappearance plunged the entire town into a state of sorrow and fear. The townspeople, who had previously treated the lake's legends as distant and harmless stories, now wondered if the danger was real. Parents kept their children away from the water, and the lake, once a place of tranquility, became a symbol of fear for all. However, none of these feelings compared to what Olivia felt. For Olivia, Lucas's absence was not merely a tragedy, it was an enigma. She could not believe that he had simply gotten lost or fallen into the lake by accident. Deep down in her heart, she knew there was something more, something that eluded the understanding of adults. It was as if an invisible truth hovered around the lake, a presence that only she seemed to sense. Desperate to find answers and bring her friend back, Olivia began visiting the lake almost every day. During the day, she would sit on the shore, staring intently at the waters, trying to catch any sign of Lucas. At night, she would return, driven by an unease that wouldn't let her rest. Each visit to the lake was an attempt to decipher the mystery, a hope of hearing the sound that had drawn Lucas in. With a tight heart and fierce determination, Olivia walked around the water, waiting, pleading to hear the melody Lucas had mentioned. Every breeze that brushed against her ears, every gentle wave that broke on the shore, seemed to whisper promises she couldn't fully understand. Then, on a silent night, when the world seemed to be asleep and the moon reflected its soft light on the dark waters of the lake, Olivia finally heard it. The sound was soft, almost imperceptible at first, as if it came from a great distance. But as she focused more, the melody became clearer, sharper. It was a song, delicate and enchanting, that seemed to float in the air and dance on the surface of the lake. Olivia felt a shiver run down her spine. She was hearing exactly what Lucas had described. The song was both beautiful and unsettling, and it seemed to call to her, just as it had done with him. The melody, despite being gentle, seemed to envelop Olivia like an invisible blanket, guiding her effortlessly to the edge of the lake. Each note resonated in her heart, pulsing in sync with her quickened breaths. Her feet, once hesitant, now moved almost on their own, as if being pulled by a mysterious force. The wind, gently blowing through the trees, carried the notes with a haunting delicacy, almost as if it were whispering ancient secrets directly into her ears. Olivia couldn't pull away, even knowing the dangers that the song brought. There was something fascinating and irresistible about the melody, a hidden promise within its notes, a sense that all the answers she sought were there, in the depths of the lake. She could feel the damp ground beneath her feet, the smell of earth mingled with the freshness of the waters, but none of that mattered. The world around her seemed to fade away, leaving only the music and the shimmering darkness of the lake before her. Her body was tense, her heart racing against her chest, but her mind was calm, focused. She knew this was the decisive moment, the point at which everything would change. The air around her felt denser, charged with an ancient and mystical energy. She felt her grandmother's amulet warm gently in her pocket, as if it were coming to life, pulsing in tune with the melody that filled the air. It was the only link that kept her connected to reality, while the music tried to drag her into another world. Even so, Olivia did not retreat. Each step brought her closer to the water, to the truth, to the fate she knew was waiting for her. Fear and excitement mixed in her chest, creating a whirlwind of emotions she could barely control. She knew she couldn't turn back, that she had to move forward, regardless of what awaited her in the dark, enigmatic depths of the lake. And then, when her feet finally touched the cold water at the shore, Olivia realized the moment had come. The world around her fell silent, leaving only the song, growing stronger, echoing inside her mind. She took a deep breath and took the next step, knowing her life would never be the same. Her grandmother, before mysteriously disappearing years ago, had left Olivia an amulet, saying it would bring protection in times of great need. That night, Olivia held it tightly, feeling a comforting warmth in her hands, as if the amulet were alive. It was her only defense against the unknown. Olivia approached the water, her feet touching the damp ground of the shore. The sound of the song grew clearer, louder. She looked at the calm surface of the lake, and for a moment, the reflection of the moon seemed to distort. Something was down there, something waiting for her. Not knowing exactly what was moving her, Olivia stepped into the water, her hands still clutching the amulet, as the sound of the song filled every thought. Suddenly, the ground beneath her feet disappeared, and she was pulled down. Panic engulfed her for a moment, but soon the sensation dissipated. Olivia wasn't drowning. Instead, she felt as if she were floating, being guided by an invisible force. When she opened her eyes, she realized she was no longer in the lake. She was in a completely different place. The lake had vanished. Around her, an underwater kingdom revealed itself. It wasn't like the ocean floor, filled with sand and fish. It was a magical place where soft lights emanated from glowing corals and grand stone structures, covered in moss and seaweed, rose around her. In the center of that kingdom, an imposing structure caught her attention. It looked like a temple, with sculpted columns and details resembling aquatic beings and ancient symbols. Olivia knew that was where she had to go. As she walked, she felt she wasn't alone. Spectral figures, made of mist and light, watched her from a distance. They seemed to be trapped in that place, condemned to wander eternally. Their eyes, void of life, followed Olivia's every step. She realized these spirits were the people who had been drawn in by the song over the centuries. They had not managed to escape. Determined not to share the same fate, Olivia entered the temple. Inside, the atmosphere was even more intense. The song echoed against the stone walls, and at the center of the room, on a crystal altar, sat a majestic figure. The Queen of the Waters, an ancient and powerful entity, sat on a throne made of corals and pearls, watching Olivia with a penetrating gaze. "You have come this far, young Olivia," said the queen, her voice sounding like the waves crashing against distant rocks. "But do you know what this means?" Olivia, with her heart pounding in her chest, felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her shoulders. She looked at the imposing figure before her, the Queen of the Waters, whose presence seemed to dominate the entire environment around her. The air was thick with a dense, almost suffocating energy, and Olivia struggled to stay calm. Her body trembled, but it wasn't just from fear. It was the tension of standing before something ancient and powerful, something she knew she couldn't underestimate. However, amidst the fear, there was also a flame of determination ignited within her. She had not come this far to fail. Lucas, her best friend, was somewhere trapped by that curse, and she would not allow him to become just another lost soul. Olivia knew that it was not only about saving Lucas. It was about freeing all those who had been lured by the song, those whose lives had been interrupted and whose stories had been erased without explanation. With a trembling voice, yet filled with resolve, she raised her gaze to the Queen of the Waters and said, "I came to save my friend, and to free everyone who was drawn to this song." The words came out like a challenge, a vow that she would not give up. Each syllable carried the weight of her determination, the promise that she would do everything in her power to put an end to that curse. The silence that followed her words was deep and heavy. The Queen of the Waters, with her penetrating eyes, observed Olivia intently. For a moment, time seemed to stand still, and Olivia felt the weight of her destiny approaching. The Queen of the Waters let out an enigmatic smile, a gesture that somehow seemed to carry centuries of wisdom and sadness. It was not a smile that reassured, but neither did it convey pure malice. There was something unsettling in that gaze, as if she were analyzing Olivia in her essence, measuring her soul and her intentions. "All those who came before you have failed," she said, her voice reverberating through the temple hall like the echo of waves crashing against distant cliffs. They were consumed by their own desires. Each word seemed to weigh heavier on Olivia's shoulders, making her realize how well that entity knew human frailties. "Are you different?" The question hung in the air, laden with doubt and provocation. Olivia swallowed hard, feeling a mix of fear and responsibility. She knew that others had come before her, lured by promises of power, answers, or simply out of curiosity. And one by one, they had all failed, succumbing to the treacherous charms of the Queen of the Waters and her song. But Olivia believed she was different. She was not there for greed or ambition, nor for personal glory. Her only motivation was to save Lucas and free those who had been ensnared by the spell. She took a deep breath, searching within herself for the truth she needed to show the Queen. She could not lie, not before such an ancient and wise force. "Yes," she replied, her voice coming out firm this time. "I am different. I am not here for myself. I am here because I cannot abandon those I love, those who need help." The Queen continued to observe her, unwavering, as if she were trying to decipher every thought of Olivia. The environment around them seemed to pulse with a strange energy, as if the very lake were waiting for the entity's response. Olivia knew this was her final test. She would have to show that her courage and desire to help others were greater than any fear or selfishness. With the amulet in hand, she approached the Queen. "I don't want power, nor riches. I just want to protect those I love and bring peace to those who are trapped here," Olivia said firmly. The Queen studied the girl for a long moment. Then, she rose from her throne and raised one hand. The waters around began to stir, and before Olivia, a door of light opened in the temple floor. "You have a pure heart, Olivia. Your will to protect surpasses the desire to possess. Therefore, I grant you what you seek. Go, and take with you those you came to save." Olivia looked at the door of light, feeling that this was her chance to escape. But before she could move, she saw the spectral figures around her starting to fade. Lucas was among them. He smiled at her, a sad smile, but one of gratitude. "Thank you, Olivia," he said before disappearing into the light. With her heart heavy yet relieved at the same time, Olivia crossed the door of light, feeling a mix of emotions in her chest. The soft and comforting glow enveloped her, as if she were being carried by a warm breeze on a summer day. When she reopened her eyes, the feeling of strangeness lingered for a brief moment. She found herself back at the edge of the lake, with the world around her seeming both familiar and different. Olivia still held the amulet and noticed that it remained warm in her hand, emitting a gentle and comforting heat, as if it had absorbed all the energy of that submerged realm. Her clothes were dry, and the surroundings appeared calm. The lake, which had previously carried an aura of mystery and danger, now seemed serene, merely reflecting the pale light of the moon. She took a step back, observing the surface of the water, which was now completely still, with no sign of the hidden forces that had dwelled there. There was no more song, nor the distant call that so many had followed before her. The forest around also seemed different, more peaceful, as if the darkness that enveloped the place had dissipated. Olivia took a deep breath, feeling the weight of what she had just experienced. Although the lake was silent, she knew that something deep and ancient had changed. Perhaps the Queen of the Waters herself had granted rest to herself and to the spirits she had freed. Even though the mystery was no longer the same, Olivia knew that the respect for the lake and its secrets remained. Looking one last time at the sleeping lake, she made a silent promise. She would honor what she had learned and would maintain the balance that had now been restored. With light steps, Olivia walked away, knowing that her journey in that place had come to an end, but that the lessons and responsibilities would accompany her forever. Olivia never told anyone what happened that night. The lake seemed to have returned to its normal state, and no one else had disappeared since then. But she knew, in her heart, that something had changed. She had faced the Queen of the Waters, saved her friend, and freed those who had been trapped for centuries. From that day on, Olivia vowed to protect the lake and its secrets, not out of fear, but out of respect for the power that dwelled in those waters. She had learned that some things should not be revealed, but kept with wisdom and care. What would you do if you were in Olivia's place? Would you have the courage to face the Queen of the Waters? Comment below what you thought of this story. And if you liked it, don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more adventures and mysteries like this.